brookeBoothCoaching.com. That's Brooke with an E, where I help Mormons figure out and navigate mixed faith marriages. So I hear a lot that a faith transition causes marriage problems, and I teach that a faith transition causes a marriage transition, but that's very different than marriage problem. And I want to talk about this idea of blaming our marriage problems on our mixed faith marriage on a faith transition. What I do see happening, and this is no denial here, is I do see that a faith transition or a mixed faith marriage definitely brings to the surface a lot of things that may have been dormant in your relationship. It may bring issues to the surface that have never been addressed. It may highlight areas that have never really been looked at before, and areas where maybe there weren't necessarily problems. That's because they weren't being irritated or aggravated. And it's important to consider this because a mixed faith marriage becomes a scapegoat for many, many things. But it's not the reason, or it's not necessary. Like, if you have a mixed faith marriage, that doesn't mean you're going to have marriage problems. If that were true, then all mixed faith marriages would be doomed, right? All would be very unhappy affairs, when in truth, there are many, many, many mixed faith marriages that are wonderful and full of happiness and connection. So I want you to consider that maybe you're using your mixed faith marriage as a scapegoat for many things that you're not taking responsibility for in your marriage. So sometimes we blame our mixed faith marriage for lack of our own communication skills. Sometimes we blame our mixed faith marriage for resentment that's been building up, for inequality patterns that exist. Sometimes we blame our mixed faith marriage for chronic underappreciation that has been going on for years. Sometimes we blame our mixed faith marriage for lack of our own self-development. Now, this is really good news, believe it or not, because the best news is you can have a great mixed faith marriage. What this means is when we realize we're blaming the mixed faith marriage for things that aren't really the mixed faith marriage's fault, what this means is now transition is not controlling your marriage. It's not the cause of your marriage woes. It means that something outside of your control is not destroying your marriage. It means that you can now take charge of the underlying issues in your marriage. You can address them, and you can work on them, and you can fix them regardless of the faith status of each partner. This is really good news. Now, I know it is so much easier to just blame the mixed faith marriage instead of taking responsibility for real issues. That's only easier in the short term. In the long term, it's much, much harder. What's interesting, blaming the mixed faith marriage doesn't solve problems anyway. It never has. It only ultimately causes more problems. So think about it. If you're ready to get to the root of the issues, are you ready to go deep and find out what's really going on in your marriage? You need to go to the cause, right? Causal coaching is a lot of the coaching I do. It's like when you pull out dandelions, it's best done when the whole taproot is pulled out, right? You need to examine the whole taproot and deal with that, and not just the flower. The mixed faith marriage is the flower. Right? The root, communication patterns, inequality, resentment, and many, many other issues, perhaps. And this is why I love coaching so much. It's such a great tool that helps you to transcend the symptoms to really delve and explore the causes. So if you're ready to start doing that weeding that has been neglected so that your mixed faith marriage can be beautiful and flourish, it's possible, and it's time. If you're ready to stop putting the blame on the mixed faith marriage and recognize that many, many people have wonderful mixed faith marriages, and that is not the cause of the difficulty you're experiencing, but it's indeed something else, it might be time to reach out and get some coaching. I offer a few free calls every month. All you need to do is go to my website, brookeBoothCoaching.com. There you'll be able to find the link to get on a free call, and you can schedule it right there. It's super easy. If you know you're blaming your mixed faith marriage for things that are really underlying issues, it's time to change that, because if and until you take that responsibility, when you put blame on the mixed faith marriage, on the faith transition, on all of that, you'll never be able to have control over it, and you'll feel stuck, and you'll repeat patterns, and you'll be super frustrated because it's effectively outside of your control. Only when you take responsibility and you're willing to look deeper and you're willing to do the work where you do have control, that's the work on these other issues. Maybe it's resentment, maybe it's inequality, maybe it's communication, maybe it's any number of other things, then you can start to make real changes. Okay, wishing you the best.